Hi, welcome to Tech Field Day. My name is Tom Hollingsworth, and I'm here interviewing my good friend Bruno Wollmann. Bruno, introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bruno Wollmann. I'm a senior network architect, self-employed. Been in networking for 30 some years and still having fun with it. So that's why I'm here.
30 years, that's a lot of time to be in networking. What are some of the things you've been working on over your career?
Oh, man. Originally, I started off as just, boots on the ground, go install this switch, go plug this cable in, and eventually worked my way up to where I don't have to get my hands physically dirty too often anymore. And now it's just designing, designing and architecting and creating plans to make hopefully life easier for the people that have to operate this gear and the customers that are using it while still maintaining the service they expect.
And I've heard about some of your design skills. I'm pretty sure that you've seen a lot of crazy things in the data center. But I wanted to ask you if you could take away any single pane in data center networking, and I'm not talking about like a pane of glass, I'm talking about like pain, like physical pain. What would you want to have solved?
The thing I would solve in data center networking, the big pain point is day two operations of multiple switches running at different layers in the network. Multiple switches should have almost identical configurations in the data center, save for IP addresses and host names, but the a lot of the port configurations and VLAN names and trunk ports and things like that, if you're talking traditional networking, are basically common configurations across multiple switches. Yet, even if one person is looking after all of that, there's variations from switch to switch to switch. And when you add multiple operators into the scene, the variations seem to multiply exponentially in especially in data center networking, and templates only go so far to fix that.
Yeah, I don't want to date myself here, but I can remember a time when my template was a notepad window that I just kept open on my laptop. And when I wanted to configure a switch, I just copied and pasted it in there and hoped that I remembered to change the host name or something like that. And then, oops, I didn't. Or my other nemesis was, oh, I found a better way to do this. So I'm going to make a couple of modifications. And then four switches down the road, they were nothing alike. And of course, I'm like, what kind of moron did this? Well, the moron is in the room with us right now, and it is in fact me. So I think I see where you're kind of coming from with that. And I know that one of the things that this ends up causing problems with is, it makes things a lot harder than they need to be. And when you talk about trying to operate these things, not just as one or two switches, but as 10 or 100 switches, the scale becomes mind boggling. So if you had to rank this on a scale of, say, like 1 to, I don't know, impossible, how hard is it operating things at scale in day two operations?
It's extremely difficult to operate it. The one thing is, thankfully, in a lot of cases, in my experience, that variance that you get, which expands when you increase scale, thankfully, it hasn't increased downtime exponentially as well. So things are still operating, although they may not be operating optimally. The other problem that causes, and that's really hard to solve, is when you have somebody has to troubleshoot it. The variations across configurations, and as that scale increases, the variations increase. It's just harder to troubleshoot when certain problems do happen. And I mean, problems always happen. It's just it's not usually not a complete data center outage. It's just this application is experiencing latency problems or performance problems and things like that. Those are extra hard to troubleshoot when there's this extra variation at scale.
And I think the other thing that makes it hard when you look at scale is that people who are used to that consistency in configuration and things like that, when they see variation, when they see something that looks different from what they're used to, they want to immediately hone in on that as the source of the problem, even if it's not. because then they're like, well, it has to be this because it works the same way everywhere else, when in fact there could be a different set of conditions, or there could be enough that's different about this site versus other ones, and it creates more complexity than it needs to. So maybe not impossible, but definitely not as easy as you could imagine.
Correct.
Well, one of the things that we're super excited about, Bruno, is this idea of doing more with data center networking. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that in an event that you're going to be taking a part in September the 24th with our good friends over at Nokia. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you regarding Nokia is, how do you see their plans intersecting with what the industry needs as a whole?
Oh, I'm really excited to see what Nokia presents at this event. They came out with a new operating system called SR Linux for their gear a few years ago, and I saw a recent announcement. Actually, it was just yesterday that I saw it. They announced SR Linux available for ARM systems now. And the one thing about SR Linux is you know, it's built for automation. It's easier to automate and for those day two operations. So I'm excited to see if there's components of that in their data center networking vision.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one of the things that makes companies like Nokia so important to the space is because they have an eye on the operations. It's not just about selling you the new gear and getting it installed and then, all right, well, good luck. It's Linux. You can figure out how to make it work. It's about creating the infrastructure to make that an operations team's dream instead of a nightmare, and moving the needle there so that people are spending more time doing things with their network instead of doing things to their network. Well, as I mentioned, on September the 24th, we're going to be having a special event with Nokia. It's Networking Field Day exclusive. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who will be there alongside Bruno, as well as the topics that are going to be discussed during this event, make sure you head over to techfieldday.com and click on the link for Networking Field Day exclusive with Nokia. Set your calendars for the presentation because you're not going to want to miss any of that. Like I said, you'll be joined by Bruno, as well as a number of other folks who will be there. Bruno, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to let me ask you some questions. If people want to learn a little bit more about some of the things that you write and some of the designs that you do for networking, where can they go to learn more?
My blog, you can find me on my blog at brunowollmann.com.
Awesome. And if you want to learn more about the events that we do, in addition to Networking Field Day exclusive with Nokia, make sure you check out techfieldday.com for more details. I'll see you then, Bruno, and I'll see the rest of you very soon.